The Lunaverse by Rainbow Double Dash. Episode 15. Hearts and Host Days Adventures. My little pony, my little pony. Ah, my little pony. Friendship never meant that much to me, my little pony. But you're all here and now I can see stormy weather, lots to share, a musical bond with loving care, teaching laughter. It's an easy feat, and magic makes it all complete. You have my little ponies. How did I ever make so many true friends? Created by Rainbow Double Dash. It can only happen only on the hub. Presented by Hasbro. Live read by Martial Art Fruit User. Sponsored by Moose's House of Wax. Need a bikini wax? Need a wax? Need any type of wax? Smooze is your job. Part 1 of Hearts and Hooves. Hearts and Hooves Day was once again upon Equestria, and every pony was catching the bug. From the littlest foals to the gray-maned seniors, there was not a single soul in Ponyville that couldn't feel their hearts fluttering, eyes watering, and their wishes longing for that special sun pony to be near them. Schoolfuls handed each other decorated paper cards, complete with small candy hearts. Still others organized elaborate dinners, hoping to sate their lovers' appetite with good food, fine wine, and a charming atmosphere. And then there were the ones who visited the less than reputable stops on the far side of Ponyville. But they are not a part of the story, and thus shall never be spoken of again. For one pony, however, Hearts and Hooves Day meant something more than romance. It meant business. Like every year, Bon-Bon's confectionery had been overrun with customers from the minute she opened the door. Stallions and mares alike clamored to the shop's counter, demanding the finest colored box chocolates that bits could buy. After all, the alternative was to admit they had forgotten about the holiday again, and thus find themselves shamed and ostracized, and sometimes living on the couch. A few had even had custom padding installed in their doghouses, just in case such a crisis had occurred. And at the center of it all was Bon-Bon herself, barely able to fight back the rampaging hordes. She would have fallen too, had her trusted mareman had not been at her side. The bearer of the element of loyalty was operating the other side of the counter, flipping up the pre-packaged boxes to her boss/lover with both her hooves and magic. Everything from 50-piece hearts to 30-piece sampler boxes were sold out within a matter of minutes. Without any of the stock items to sate their thirst, customers turned to other candies on display. By the time the first wave had ended, it was 10 o'clock, and there was barely a candy left on the shelves, and they were down to their box sets. Sensing that her shift was at an end, Lyra caught their hooves together and let out a relieved sigh. Well, this went easier than last year. At least no pony came in foaming for a toffee case. Bon-Bon giggled at the reminder of Hearts and Hooves Day of old. Now, that was an interesting day. I never thought any pony could merge that many curse words together in a single sentence. The two let out a shared laugh at the memory. Lyra chuckled especially hard, her eyes never once leaving Bon-Bon. Her mare friend, she was as beautiful as ever. A pony of such great and beauty was a rarity, especially in the candy profession. Outside of music, Bon-Bon was the one true love in Lyra's life, and nothing could ever... So, what did you get me this year? Lyra's heart skipped a beat, then two. It just barely restarted before she went into cardiac arrest. This year, I... Cold, primal fear overtook her very form as she struggled to remember. That necklace? No, that was our anniversary. Those records? Last year. What did I buy her this year? Where did I hide it this time? Why can't I... That was when she realized the horrible, horrible truth. The most terrible of things had finally come to pass. She had forgotten to get her anything. Well? Bon-Bon asked again, her voice still syrupy as her eyes narrowed with suspicion. It's a surprise, said Lyra. I hid it at our friend's place and, well, I need to go pick it up. Might take the rest of the day. Okay, bye! And with that, Lyra leapt over the counter and galloped out the door. Bon-Bon watched her leave with a smile on her lips, both from how much she loved her mare and because she got to see her sweet, sweet flank in action. It was hard sometimes. Lyra's career was one she loved, but it only brought in money sporadically. That, and there was that whole thing about having to stop a crazed goddess from killing them all, putting herself in harm's way time and again for her sake. She would be lying if she said it wasn't touching, but her friend could probably do well to survive. At least, long enough for her to give her. Bonbon's eyes attempted to push their way through her skull, no doubt wishing to escape the rest of her frazzled brain. A few breaths managed to calm them down, but it wasn't enough to wash away her moment realization. I didn't get her anything. Once Lyra was certain Bon-Bon wasn't going to come galloping after her, she fell out to her haunches and let out a few haggard breaths. The ponies around her paused every now and then to give her a cautionary look, but otherwise they trotted along to the beat of their own drum. Which was good, since Lyra's heartbeat was currently at the level seen in Jungle Adventures, just before the cannibals boiled the explorers in a giant cauldron. I can't believe I did that! I never missed the Hearts and Hosts Day before in my life! All the preparations, the packing, the corona mess! Lyra let out a single skyward scream, briefly attracting the attention of the other residents of Ponyville, before they turned back to their loved ones. Obviously, every pony was paired off with every pony else, giving fine chocolate-dipped bouquets and expensive jewelry to prove their eternal love and admiration for each other. Like that one stallion proving his love for Jelly. And ever since he had begun dating Bon-Bon, Lyra was no different. She may not have had the greatest means, and sometimes had to put off eating and bathing to make sure her beloved had gotten what she deserved. But she always remembered her. And now it was ending. She knew enough about relationships to understand what forgetting Hearts and Hooves Day meant. She could still find a gift, but that wasn't what was important. It was a sign that she and Bon-Bon were getting older. Anniversaries and special holidays were becoming less and less important. Before long, they would be reduced to an old couple like their dads. The romance and passion completely dead and buried beneath hundreds of years of contentment and drudgery. I can't let that happen! Lyra clenched her full hosts together, eyes shutting slightly as a racing fury burned deep in her heart. I am a musician, a dreamer, a master of the lyrical arts. I shall not allow our love to devolve into drudgery. I shall make certain that this is the best Hearts and Hooves Day ever! All I need is to grab my bits and head to that sparkler mare and... That was what she was realizing she was missing. Her funds. Cold sweat dripped down the mare's forehead as she remembered how utterly broke she was. Even worse, the only bits she could possibly lay claim to were back at the confectionery. There's no way I could get back there without Bon-Bon nosing. She'll find me out for sure. I need another plan. Another. In Lyra's blind panic, she turned her head just enough to catch sight of her flank. Her eyes widened as she took in the shape of her lyre-shaped cutie mark, a symbol of her special talent and instrument of choice. The same one she had used 1,000 times to serenade her precious peppermint twist. That was when the idea struck her. Bon-Bon rapped her hooves nervously against the shop's wooden floor, rhythmically beating to the ticking of a nearby clock. With every passing minute, she was a little closer to Hearts and Hooves Day dinner, as well as her impending doom. Without Lyra to stand guard, she couldn't leave her shop up, and if she didn't have a gift by the time she got back, she would never hear the end of it. Oh, I suppose it isn't a big deal, she thought as she shook her head. After all, I still love her and she loves me. She'll understand that I was too busy this year to... Excuse me? Bon-Bon's consciousness came crashing right back to reality as Raindrops approached. Eyebrow raised with worry. Are you okay? You were zoning out there for a second. It's nothing, Bon-Bon replied. So, are you doing anything special for Hearts and Hooves Day, Raindrops? Any special sun ponies? She punctuated the last words with a twist of her head, puckering her lips and a slight wink. All that accomplished was make Raindrops feel even more frustrated with the whole holiday than she already was. At least Snails was guaranteed to get something in class. She had to deal with yet another year of the world reminding her that she had no pony to call her own. The question just made her, No, I don't! I just came in here for some malt balls. Have any? Bon-Bon shook her head and ducked behind the counter, and came back up with a single yellow bot of chocolate-covered malt balls. She carefully sat on the counter before resuming the conversation. So, do you have any ideas for a Hearts and Hooves Day gift? Raindrops cocked an eye at this, even as her wings stunk into her coin purse for some bits. You mean like flowers, jewelry, and all that? Can't say I do. Romance has never really interested me that much, you know. She let out a single chuckle, a tiny bead of sweat sliding down her cheek. Love. Such a silly thing, you know. Bon-Bon cocked her head a little, but otherwise said nothing in response. She just took the bits Raindrops offered and deposited them in a nearby register, and pushed the box of candies closer. The Pegasus was all ready to bite into the box and leave when the shop owner spoke again. You see, I kinda forgot to get Lyra something this year. I'm going to have to run out pretty late tonight to find something, and I was hoping you would have some ideas. Every passing moment Bon-Bon spoke, Raindrop's eyes widened, her ears perked up, and the hair of her coat stood on end. By the time the mare was up to the word some, the weather mare was practically trotting in place in shock. If one didn't know better, they would have had to assume that she heard that Corona was planning to vaporize the local puppy orphanage. But really, it's nothing, Bon-Bon finished. It's just a silly holiday anyway. I'm sure she'll be happy with anything I get. No, she won't! Raindrop's sudden cry was so strong that Bon-Bon's mane was blown black, leaving a disheveled flesh of frayed hairs and a ball of frazzled nerves. A smile changed to a frightened gasp as the seeming transformation poured over Raindrops. The mare took a few steps forward, her hooves shaking like they were in an earthquake. Don't you understand how important Hearts and Hooves Day is to a pony? If you don't get her something from the heart, it means the romance in your life has died! Bon-Bon's eyes narrowed. Raindrops, our love life is none of your business. She closed her eyes. And besides, she's still got a tongue that... I'm not talking about that! Raindrop's tongue involuntarily slid out of her mouth and hung next to her cheek. No doubt trying to get some of that fresh air and escape from the Pegasus' overly imaginative brain. I meant the passion, the drive, the very idea of love itself. That is what Hearts and Hooves Day is all about. And if you forget it, if you call it a silly holiday, then the passion is gone. For long, you'll be like any old couple, simply whiling away the days, reading the newspaper, and complaining about the weather. Bon-Bon's first instinct was to lash out at the impetuous mare for even suggesting she was old. Before she could mutter her first curse back, the rest of the declaration began to worm into the furry core of her brain. She's right. This might be small, but it can lead to even worse things down the line. If I don't find a way to fix this mess, our love might actually be over. Mare's eyes widened. Her coat grew even more pale. Her fetlocks shuddered and barrel rumbled. She looked at Raindrops with an expression of horror and loss. Could you please help me? I don't know what to do. I can't leave the shop unattended, and there's still boxes to pack, and I can't ask you to... Do you know what might work? Raindrops chattered in. Just throw her a very romantic dinner. Some candles, some wine, and her favorite food. Fill her up. Get her a little tipsy. Then she'll feel appreciated. And when she gives you your gift, you'll explain that this dinner was extra special because you couldn't get out to get her something. She'll be so happy, she'll understand completely. Bon-Bon's eyes began to wire. Do you think that'll work? Raindrops shrugged. It worked when Mom forgot about it a while ago. 11 months later, I had a little brother. So, I'm pretty sure he'll do the job. The mare tapped herself on the chest and closed her eyes, her fairy form exuding more confidence than 1,000 rainbow dashes. Now, tell me what she wants, and I'll help get it for you. I have the day off anyway. Oh, thank you. Bon-Bon would have jumped over the counter and gave Raindrops a big hug, as she hadn't fallen flat on her face the last time she tried that. Stupid fetlocks and stupid fetlock blotting carrots. Well, Lyra's a big pasta eater, especially with some marinara sauce. But they're these yellow flowers she loves to use as a topping. Without them, it'll be just a regular dinner. Okay, so we make a spaghetti dinner, top it with sauce, and put those flowers on. Raindrops nodded along, her hoof tapping against the side of her skull as he was working a telegraph. But, do you know what kind of flowers these are? Bon-Bon shook her head. No, I never touched them, and Lyra's the one who buys them. I'm sure Rose will know what we're looking for, though. She reached under the counter and pulled out a bag of bits, then tossed it to the waiting Raindrops. The mare caught them in her teeth with perfect accuracy. And thank you so much for this. You may have saved our relationship. Raindrops tried to purse it to her mate and nodded. Always happy to help a friend, she said, before racing out to her destiny. Trixie leaned back in her chair, eyes bulging just slightly to mask her intense discomfort. You want me to what? Help me with a little musical piece, that's all. Lyra's voice wavered back and forth, between matter-of-factly and a slight chuckle. I play the strings, you provide a nice little light show, and Bon-Bon's love for me is lit once again. I see, Trixie muttered. She tapped at the sides of her skull, desperately trying to attempt to short-charge her brain. And what about, what happens after a performance like this? She paused. Anything that involves a tongue? Lyra whinnied and took a step back, her eyes as wide as saucer plates. What? No, of course not! I'm pretty capable of handling that on my own. But if the passion is dead, then there's no point in sex at all. It'll be just two ponies rubbing against each other's nether regions until they explode. Nothing! That was when she noticed Trixie wasn't there anymore. It was about 5 seconds after that she realized that her desk was shaking. Sighing, Lyra circled around to the other side, where Trixie was hiding for dear life. Her very coat seemed drained of all color, and her eyes were as wide as a deer with a lantern waved in front of its face, and her teeth were chattering slightly. Okay, I said you don't have to get involved in anything else. Just help me get through the performance and everything will be fine. Trixie refocused her gaze on Lyra. Her lips curled in for an imminent sulking. That's it. Really. Nothing else. Lyra shook her head, and Trixie's nerves immediately began to relax. All right. I'll help. What kind of illusion do you want exactly? The hours passed, and night began to fall. Business at the shop rapidly fell as ponies trotted off to pick up their dates and spouses before going to stand in line at their favorite restaurants. This gave Bon-Bon plenty of time to head back into the kitchen and begin preparing the food Raindrops had been so kind to pick up. The hard spaghetti softened into limp noodles. The marinara sauce warmed nicely on the stove, and the flowers? The flowers were indeed marvelous, with the brightest yellow petals he had ever seen. Granted, they were a bit lighter than he remembered Lyra ever getting, but beggars can't be choosers, especially when it came to matters of the heart. Regardless of what they were, they chopped up just fine. And before long, the entire plate was filled with a mountain of pasta, a mudslide of sauce, and an orchid of petals. Just remember to eat around them, Bon-Bon. This is for her, not you. Lyra looked into the window, making sure Bon-Bon's back was turned before proceeding. Sure enough, she had broken out the special dining table, the one they used for romantic dinners, down on the shop floor. Granted, it wasn't the most private or sensual places, but the window gave a much better view at the sunset than their living quarters or kitchen did. Besides, the shop was closing up early for such an occasion, so there was no chance of a customer barging in and interrupting their meal. Wow, she actually got the table set up by herself? Lyra cocked her head. Seriously, that mare of mine is one tough cookie. Yeah. Lyra slowly turned her head to the nearby bush, or rather, to the nearby bush that was currently housing the great and powerful Trixie. The mare had left her hat and cape back at her house for fear of them getting shredded into brambles, but it was simply unavoidable. Magicking up an illusionary bush would have forced Trixie to concentrate on even more spells at once than planned, and for Lyra to ignite the fires in their hearts, she would need every last ounce of Trixie's concentration. And besides, Charlie had plenty of iodine, just in case. I'm going in, Lyra said. Remember, when I hold up the lyre and flare at the tip of my horn, that's your cue to start. Just stick to the routine and everything will be good. Ready? The bush rustled up and down in response, simulating what Lyra could only assume to be a head nod. She plastered on the most sincere smile she could and stepped through the doorway. Honey, I'm home! Her response was a candy-coated blur, as her beloved mare friend dashed past with speeds that would make Rainbow Dash envious to place a massive plate on the table. By the time she came back into proper focus, Bon-Bon was already seated and the table was set. A pair of wine glasses were filled with a fine Chianti, no doubt dug out of the hoof-full of bottles the pair kept for special occasions. And between the two was a mountain of spaghetti, topped with red sauce and flowers she could just barely make out against the light emanating from the nearby candle. All the other lights in the shop were extinguished, leaving only the moody ambience of the burning wax and setting sun. Happy Hearts of Hooves Day, dear, Bon-Bon said, her voice twinned with the slightest scent of seduction. Lyra's eyes began to glow slightly at her as she took her own seat. Is this your favorite, right? Said Bon-Bon. And you managed to cook all this today? Lyra muttered, not out of disbelief, so much as because her salivating mouth wasn't cooperating with her brain at the moment. Bon-Bon, I don't know what to say. Bon-Bon smiled. Raindrops' plan was working. It's a special occasion. Besides, I would do anything for the most special pony in the entire world. She reached the hoof out and pushed the plate a little closer to Lyra. Now, how about you take the first bite, my sweetie? Trixie grumbled to herself as the scene unfolded. She couldn't make out anything from her vantage point, but she could still hear enough, and see enough, to understand where this conversation was going. And all she was not liking this. I swear, if Lyra was lying about that! Um, Trixie, what are you doing here? Trixie's eyes shot wide open at the sound of Raindrop's voice, as flat and unmissable as he could hope for. The bear was apparently at her side, ducking down under the window next to her precious bush. What are you? Trixie, why are you in a bush? What's going on this time?
This is a Trixie. This is Bush Von Bushington, and I am, oh.
Trixie sighed in defeat. Unfortunately, lying about bushes was not something her education had prepared her for.
Okay, I'm here to help Lyra. Apparently, she forgot to get Bon-Bon some gift or something, and...
Raindrop's jaw dropped. Wait, she forgot too?
You mean Bon-Bon also forgot about this sick holiday?
Trixie mumbled under her breath. It would have been mentioned here, but it's the kind of thing mothers would scrub their foals' mouths out for.
Wonderful.
The eyes at the front of the bush turned to Raindrops.
What about you? Why are you here?
I helped Bon-Bon plan the dinner. Raindrops gave a small grin. We have everything planned in there. For the exact amount of white when the bite into the planet noodle for the old-fashioned spaghetti kiss. By the time this is done, their passion will be alive once more, and their relationship saved. Lyra sucked in a mouthful of noodles, doing her very best to avoid staining her coat, with an errant strand slipping in her face. Bon-Bon, meanwhile, simply sipped her wine and smiled. Lyra seemed so happy, so enthused, so in the moment she couldn't even bring herself to talk outside of a few token questions about her day. In any case, it was almost time for the kiss. The prearranged noodle was just waiting for her to grab to hold. All she had to do was wait for the... Why aren't you eating, Bonnie? Something wrong? The signal.
Oh, nothing.
Bon-Bon sighed.
I just wanted you to be happy. This is Hearts and Hooves Day, after all. We can't have any sad mare friends on a day like this.
But I could say the same for you, Lyra said. Come on, join in. There's plenty of... The mood came crashing down with the speed of a wrecking train. Lyra's cheeks puffed up like a squirrel, followed by a very uncomfortable sounding swallow. Bon-Bon's smile vanished as concern took hold.
What's wrong, Lyra? The flowers.
Lyra's eyes turned to the petals.
You didn't. I thought those were the ones you liked,
Bon-Bon said. She tucked to her hose and walked up to her mat.
Did I get the wrong ones? Yes, you did. It's all right.
Lyra muttered as she clung to her hose.
Why? Well, there are two that almost look alike, but one of them
Another painful swallow. Allergic to!
Allergic?
In an instant, the entire scheme fell apart. Lyra gave a quick, "Excuse me," and cantered off to the facilities to expel the unwelcome organisms, leaving Bon-Bon alone with a plateful of spaghetti and shattered dreams.
If our love wasn't already burned out, then this probably dumped an entire water tower on it.
Raindrops gasped as she saw Lyra run to the back. What happened?
It looks like something went wrong with the dinner,
Trixie muttered. But it was perfect! Raindrops moaned. The noodles, the sauce, the flowers. I thought everything was... Please tell me this wasn't the flowers. She let out a tiny squeal. This was perfect! Everything was set up exactly as it was supposed to be. The candles, the wine, the dinner, the kiss. They didn't even get to the kiss! Trixie let out a small laugh of triumph at her friend's cries.
Then it seems it's the great and powerful Trixie who shall save the day once more. Once Lyra gets back out, we are going to have ourselves quite a show.
After about 10 minutes, Lyra finally stumbled out of the bedroom. She seemed to be moving much better, although there was a slight hint of queasiness on her breath. Flying at her side was her lyre, already perfectly tuned and ready for its grand performance. The minute she was in sight, Bon-Bon leapt over and gave her an affectionate nuzzle.
I am so sorry. I didn't know. It's all right, honey,
Lyra said weakly.
Now come on. I've got to give you your present.
Bon-Bon's eyeballs attempted to break out of her face once again, forcing her to take in a big gulp of air to calm back down.
All right, the kiss. Look, come on. I know you're gonna love this one.
Lyra slowly huffed past her mare friend and seated herself to her haunches, the lyre flowing up to her full hooves.
This year, I decided to forego material pleasures
and give you the most precious gift I can offer, my song. For that is my special talent, my life, and I want to share that with you now and forever. Bon-Bon smiled. She heard this speech 1,000 times before, especially back when they were first dating. Her beloved mare was a wizard with music, but her speech-writing abilities left something to be desired. Still, a song would be nice after the hell she had just put her Lyra through.
Then please, share yourself.
Lyra's hooves tightened around the Lyra as a tiny flare of magic sparkled on the tip of her horn. Her hoof struck the first string, and suddenly the entire room around them began to darken, as if the light had been simply sucked out. Bon-Bon gasped for just a second, but soon changed her tune when she saw the rest of the spectacle. Lyra's piece was a simple tune based on an old legend. In it, a pony had fallen in love with a princess, but could not muster the courage to confess his feelings. He convinced an old alchemist to brew up a special potion that removed his fear, and during the next time he spoke to her, he drank the potion and immediately confirmed everything he had ever felt about her. As it turns out, she loved him just as much as he loved her, and the two were married. It was not long after the wedding that the pony learned the truth. The potion was only a placebo. He had mustered the courage all his own. Of course, that wasn't quite how all the versions went. A few mutterings hinted the actual potion was much crueler, forcing the two to only think of each other until their kingdom fell into ruin. But that kind of story didn't sell tickets, so the kind up fortune it was. Either way, Lyra's hooves glided gracefully across the lyre's strings, plugging an Arcadian melody to the story. And as she did so, Trixie's magic continued to work its charm. Lights danced and flickered in the dark void, not like the stars in the night sky, colliding with each other and forming all manners of constellations and symbols. She saw representations of the various characters, symbols of love and affection, and even a few reconstruction images of her and Lyra over the years. The music was beautiful, but the show was exquisite. Raindrops cocked her head slightly. From her vantage point, she couldn't see a spectacle of difference in the proceedings. So wait, you're creating some kind of illusion?
Yes.
Trixie muttered under her breath. Her brow was wet with perspiration, her muscles struggling as her horn continued to glow like a lamp.
We can't see anything, but Bon-Bon can. I've never done something this heavy before, though, so...
Fortunately, Raindrops managed to fight the urge to hug Trixie.
This is amazing!
You're going to do it, Trixie. You're going to reignite their love for each other. Trixie mumbled an information to this, then heard Raindrop's continuation.
And then they can finally lock lips once again in those furious and romantic passions, and then comes the true expression of their deepest feelings. No carnal lust here, just pure, raw emotion, the most sensible!
Lyra was exactly 7 notes from the end when the explosion happened. The veil of illusion was ripped away, and as the shop's entire front window. Shards of glass and branches went flying through the building, fortunately missing every pony, but making quite the mess of things. The force of the blast also sent the leftover spaghetti into the air, staining the entire building with a mixture of pasta and red sauce. Lyra stopped playing. Bon-Bon got to the window. Trixie and Raindrop simply stared back, the latter looking paler than a ghost.
Hello?
The summoner squeaked. Trixie kicked at the bedroom ground nervously, her eyes darting about to avoid even casting the downtrodden couple. Raindrops held a similar expression, feeling worse than the time she accidentally left a rain cloud pouring the hole of somebody's roof. Lyra and Bon-Bon, on the other hoof, simply looked at each other in total shame. No pony spoke for several minutes, leaving only the dull clicking of the nearby grandfather clock to break the silence. Finally, Bon-Bon spoke.
So, you forgot?
Lyra nodded.
Yes. And Trixie? How does she fit into this?
Lyra looked over at Trixie. The representative, for her part, simply lowered her head and pushed her hat as far over her eyes as she could. I couldn't afford to get you anything really nice, so I started to use magic to make my performance more powerful.
I'm sorry, Trixie muttered. I thought I could make it through a romantic evening without becoming ill, but I can't. Not even when you need me.
And it's my fault dinner was ruined, Raindrop said, a sight of resignation in her voice. I wanted everything to fit the idea of romance in. I didn't know about your allergies or how you would...
Bon-Bon shook her head. No, it's my fault. I should have been honest from the beginning.
Lyra cocked her head. What do you mean? Bon-Bon sighed, turned about on her hooves so she could face the far corner. She took a deep breath before continuing. The shop was so busy the last couple of days that I forgot all about your present. I didn't want you to be disappointed, so I asked Raindrops to help us with dinner and, well, I guess you know what happened from there. I just wanted to be like the ones we used to have, full of love and passion and... I know what you mean. The candy pony's eyes popped open, tears still stinging at the ducts beneath as she spun to face her lover. Lyra's own face was practically smothered in guilt and shame, like a filly caught with her hoof in a cookie jar. I was so busy with Corona and helping you in the shop that I forgot too. I couldn't get the money for a gift without coming back here, so I tried to get Tracy to help me out on a show, and, well, we saw how well that turned out. The two stared at each other tensely for several seconds after. Tracy and Raindrops watched from the peanut gallery with bated breaths, uncertain as how this relationship now stood. Bon-Bon took a step forward and nuzzled her mare on the neck while giggling. You really care about me? Lyra looked taken aback at the question. What do you mean? Of course I love you! You're the most wonderful pony I've ever met! My world! My everything would be empty if you weren't here! She leaned into herself and took her partner in a hug. Bon-Bon, you're the most special pony in the whole world. That's why I did all this. I wanted us to feel like we did when we were a little younger, with all that energy and pure passion. I thought we were just getting old and going to just become boring. I thought so too, Bon-Bon said, but perhaps that will happen someday. Perhaps we will be content and have to let the passion die down. But that doesn't mean we won't love each other just as much now. The way you express it might be chance, but something like this will last forever. Lyra's smile grew as tears began to well in her eyes. If I could pick any pony in the world to grow old with, it would be you. The two let out a small laugh, perfectly disguising the tears in their eyes. At the end of the day, they had both learned the important lesson about love and life. The fires in their hearts still burned for each other, no matter what life happened to throw at them. And while they might make mistakes and forget holidays every now and then, as long as they felt like they did now, that would mean the end of everything. They had each other, and in the end, that was all that mattered. Tracy and Raindrops looked at each other, a wry smile on both their faces.
We'll clean up downstairs, Tracy said. I know a window pony who owes me a few favors.
We'll give you two some space, Raindrops said as they both exited the room. Lyra and Bon-Bon nodded a few times, but otherwise did nothing to break the embrace. This was the most perfect moment of the entire day. The one time everything had lined up just right, and they were not going to lose it for anything. Whether or not one believed in destiny, the fact it was perfect for each other, and that would never change.